Good morning and welcome to Enterprise Morning, reaching you from our global headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria, and Enterprise Television. It is. I am Henry Igwebike.
And I'm Choma Okohe.
In a bit, we'll be going to our newspaper headlines to see all that we have for you this morning. And right after that, in the jiffy, would be our main conversation also for today. So while we get everything all sorted out for you, be part of our community, have a say in what we say. You can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com and also like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV 7. With us today in the studio to do justice to all that we have our newspaper headlines review, of course, and possibly get on to in conversation for today. In the studios we have Barrister Dami Damola Kolawole. He is a barrister, solicitor, advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Good morning to you, barrister.
Good morning.
Thank you so very much
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and also we have in the studios also with us Cyril Abaku, journalist and public affairs commentator. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Cyril.
Thank you so very much for your time. We truly do appreciate you both. All right, so let's kickstart our newspaper headlines today with the first daily. Joma.
We have the Daily Trust newspaper, and on the top strip of the Daily Trust newspaper, against expectation, CBN raises interest rates to 27.25%.
Very well, and on the bottom strip of the same newspaper, Nigerians are grappling with hardship, and that's coming from Ababio.
Okay, moving on. President Tinubu seeks UN permanent seat. Debt forgiveness for Nigeria. Others.
And also, still on the top strip here, Zamfara, Lawal Matawale's feud gets messier.
Okay, going down on the bottom strip, we have EFCC probes owned staff over 15 million naira bribery allegation.
Yes, but interestingly, the big story that made it on the Daily Trust newspaper is Army discharges a female soldier who accused officer of sexual advances. And the writer there says it cites a mental challenge on the female officer, exonerates the colonel of allegation, and Women Affairs Ministry are silent. Well, we have it authoritatively from the same newspaper that the Nigerian Army has discharged female soldier Private Ruth Ogunleye from service after she accused the senior officer Colonel I.B. Abdul Karim of sexual harassment. In January of 2024, Ogunleye made the accusation via her TikTok page, where she alleged that Colonel I.B. Abdul Karim, Colonel G.S. Ogo, and Brigadier General I.B. Solebo had made her life unbearable. Barrister, let's talk about this. Of course, it's very important that we look at the fundamental human rights of Nigerians, particularly when we talk about this. I think it's very important we are should be female gender sensitive in this particular issue. We're speaking of a female officer, right, who had accused her seniors of trying to do something she wasn't interested in, but instead of the organization looking into this particular matter, they discharged her. Speak to us on this, please.
Well, thank you very much. It's a really sensitive matter. Sensitive because of there are a whole lot of advocates that has to do with gender issues. And you should also understand that there is an allegation of crime involving, the pronouncement made by her. Also, you should also understand that the end product of that pronouncement, the discharge, of the female officer, and would I say the fact that, they actually made a statement that she was suffering from mental infirmity, contrary to section 27, section 28 of the criminal code. Then we also should look at that, liken it to the case of Umoni's case and McNaughton's case, which is a locus classicus in that area. But look, the fact remains that it will be very, very difficult, because I actually followed the story earlier. It will be very difficult for her to have made such allegation and put the allegation online if you are unable to prove that allegation beyond every iota of doubt. And I don't know how she will be able to, prove that allegation beyond every iota of doubt, every reasonable means of doubt, if she does not have all her evidential proof appropriately tailored. Because you see, it is different. Look, there's speech, we say freedom of speech, but the freedom after the speech being made, how do you ascertain it? Because you must be able to look. Law is not the judge is not a babalawo. The judge is not a metaphysical personality. The judge is not a supernatural human that will help you within the context of your evidential proof in any matter before it. The judge is an arbiter of peace, an impartial personality. If you go to the court now, you see the themis of goddess. You understand? And you can see that themis is being veiled. There's a veil, and there's a weight, and there's a sword. The weight is your proof of evidence. You place your evidence on the weight, and it tilts either for or against. And then the sword is the sanction for whosoever the weight actually tilts against. So it will be very difficult and in the military circle, it's not the judge, it's the martial system that is being used, the administrative system within the military. So how do you expect that the administrative commission of inquiry that is going to actually look into the matter will look into the matter holistically in your favor without every iota of doubt as a proof of evidence? And that's the reason why she cried out that she wants to be discharged. She said she had tendered her resignation, forgetting the fact that for every institution, there is the module, the means, the manner by which you can tender your resignation, especially in a sensitive organization as that of the military. Because it's expected that, look, your rule of engagement must be followed and followed to the letter. You cannot wake up one day and say, oh, there's an allegation of this. Well, allegation is either here nor there. An allegation remains an allegation until proven what? Beyond reasonable doubt. So if you are unable to prove your allegation beyond reasonable doubt, I'm sorry.
But in the case of the military, how possible is it, knowing that, when it comes to the military, obey is the last command? Do you think it's ever possible to actually, weigh in on this to prove this allegation? Because I equally followed the story. She provided all evidences, and it showed that really these senior officers were trying to, get into her. So how do you think that can be settled in a military scenario?
If you say that she provided all the evidence, you can see look, there is an allegation of rape. When you say there's an allegation of sexual harassment, when you say there's an allegation of rape, you must be able to prove the allegation of rape beyond reasonable doubt. All the essence of corroboration, all the essence of consent must be proven. Now, listen to me. How do you prove this in this context? What are the evidence adduced to this fact? Because for you to be able to prove all this evidence, the evidential proof in the context of our allegation must be, beyond all this, because it is quite easy for you to cook up anything against senior officers. So how do you do it? Like I said, I'm not holding brief for the Nigerian army. I'm not holding brief for her. But look, you must be able to place it, and the sensitivity of it, you have to be careful, because once you are able to bring in the issue of our status or our gender into it, a lot of other, you understand what similar fact evidence is. A lot of other persons that are not comfortable with the system, or not comfortable with the institution, or not comfortable with the department by which they are being posted, will also wake up one day and say, no, this is happening. And then how do you put, you say, oh, it has happened before, similar fact evidence. And then you continue on and on and on like that. The system will not allow it. Already we have structural defects. And if you look at the theory of structural functionalism, we cannot allow the structure to be affected, or all institutions built on it will not function.
Very true.
Thank you, Dr. Dami. Cyril Abako, looking at the man in question, that's the Major General, that is actually being accused. If we go down memory lane looking at most of our security bodies, there's never been a time where a colonel have been made to dance to the tune of the music, especially when they go out of the law. And do you think same thing applied to this particular case? Because even if we look at the court and some of the cases, those who we put as the bourgeoisies have never been made to face the rot
of the law. You want
Yes.
to say? Well, first of all, we've gotten here so far because of the path we traveled to get to this point. But I want to remind Nigerians about the allegations she made specifically. Let me read it. She said she claimed, according to the reporting, that Abdul Karim, that's the man you're talking about, Abdul Karim, had made repeated attempts to assault her. It may be difficult to prove that, depending on circumstance, right? Administered injections against her will. So there should be evidence of such chemical, whatever, medical agents in her body, if at all he did it. And of course, in medicine, you have a right to know what you're being treated with and to choose whether you should be treated with it or not. No matter how critical the case is, if you want to leave the hospital as soon as you're brought in, they will release you. The doctors are not commanded by law to keep you there. It is called DAMA, Discharged Against Medical Advice. They will write it in your file and say you left the hospital on your own volition. They can't stop you, right? So, forcibly remove her from her residence and confine her in a psychiatric hospital for several months. Now, the argument about her mental health, to join the army, you will have to pass a certain level of physical and mental fitness. So they should have a history of mental health before she was brought into, before Colonel Abdul Karim sent her to the psychiatric place. They should have a history before she joined the army. And if she had, how come she passed the test? And if she didn't have, what kind of condition was happening in the army? Because soldiers are meant to survive certain levels of physical and human extremities. They are trained to, they are trained for it. So if a lady, she's in the army, she's beginning to now lose her mind, we also need to ask what exactly could have led to her losing her mind. So then, forcibly moved her from her apartment. Of course, they can check. The way I'm looking at the matter, from the time she raised those allegations to the time they dismissed her from the army, it doesn't look like anything materially different came into the picture. It was about what she said, what they said, just kept in the cooler until the opportune time came, and now she has been told to, to show them, as they said, to walk through the door. So I want to assume that two things can happen. But I'm glad they talk about structural functionalism. We cannot undermine our institutions, frankly speaking, but we can serve justice to those at whose hands wrongdoing is about to brought into those institutions. So what can we do? We can do a number of things. Can FIDA, FIDA, the International Federation of Women Lawyers, or the National Council of Women Societies, or any other women can take up this case. Just check, be sure that this woman, because I think we need to investigate that mental health problem. We must investigate it.
But knowing the way the military is structured, do you think it's ever possible for an independent body to go through there?
That's why I said we cannot undermine it. What I would have called for from the beginning was an independent investigation. But that could, in a way, undermine the army. The army is an institution. If you accuse your superior of wrongdoing, you're in a, it's like in a company. There should be room for the use of the same institution's protocols to address the issue. But now that she's an is it private or sergeant or whatever, can FIDA or NCWIS now call and say, sister, you're no longer, let us establish some facts. Let's test this so-called mental problem. Let's test it. It must have a name. Mental illness is not vague. There are names for several. So let's check. Is it psychosis? Is it Alzheimer? Is it whatever it is? And there are certain illness that are meant for certain age range. But I'm not a doctor. Let them at least check to prove it medically that indeed she has this. That she's mentally unstable. One. Number two is we can now also possibly consider going back again, because she said some very specific things, and even said she had witnesses, and even said it wasn't just one person, it was more than one person. But in her own case now, the matter has traveled this far, and she has been told to go. But perhaps the army could review. If somebody was pushed out of a house, why? On what grounds? On what conditions? they can check out all of it. Whether their law allows them to let the public know, to release all of this is what I can't say.
And of course,
but the public
yes,
yearning for justice this way should not be allowed to just keep yearning. We need to know what we need to know.
Yeah, because I actually wanted to ask, what's the fate of those who do not have the gusto to come out to speak out? What is their fate? And understanding, yes, we do respect the institution of the military, but we can't say that issues like this are not practiced. How do you think we can better, as at least help those who can speak out because of what they have signed into, the barrister?
Well, I appreciate this, but let's look at this. You see, there's a principle of law we call violenti non fit injuria.
Okay.
You can't belong to an institution and actually claim damages against the institution.
Whoa.
There's the extent of damages that can be claimed, that is allowed to be claimed when you belong to an institution. And then, you see, the rights you have, even at the port of your engagement into the institution, you are letting go of 99.999% of the right that you have. That is the institution of the military. That's the reason why at times they tell you that, it's obey the last order. You don't question an authority. You see, the military is such that's the reason why the military, internal, happenings is not in conformity. You don't conform it to the judicial system. You conform it to the martial system. And that's the way it is all over the world. Now, if you want to question your authority, there are rules, there are means, there are procedures. In fact, the procedure to questioning the authority within the military is systemic. You don't go by media like she did. You cannot attempt. That's the reason why she was arrested immediately. Because it means that she's acting in simile to espionage. You see, if you let her go, or if you let her off, she will reveal sensitivity of her department to the enemies of the military. I'm giving you a scenario. There's the dichotomy between a scenario and a scene now. A scenario within the context of a personnel of the military doing that. She's running awry of what the system that brought her in at the point of her engagement. And look, it is because of the public outcry. The military does not relate in this context. The military will, in fact, she could be kept, indoor for so long a time because the military does not want her to, reveal some of the information she has at her disposal that can be used by the enemy. So, look, you should understand that even the dead has a fundamental right. Yeah, I'm telling you now, you should understand that a condemned person that is facing capital punishment has a fundamental right. So within the military, she has a fundamental right, but limited to the martial laws of the military.
Very true. Well, this is a classical case of a look before you leap. So if you are intending to belong to the Nigerian military, you think it twice.
And if I may add to this, like my learned colleague here said, when you say, some particular substance has been admitted to you, let us have a critical understanding of that, because what we say critical skepticism, doubting the obvious truth. If in context of the fact that a substance has been admitted to you and you have a proof of the fact that the substance has been admitted to you, the question is, was the substance admitted to you by you or admitted to you by somebody else? Now, how do you prove that the substance was actually admitted to you by a third party and not the party being alleged, and not you yourself in trying to exonerate the fact that you need to have a backup to the statement and the allegation being made? Let me give you an example to that. There is a scenario created within the context of the law, is an obiter dictum made by a judge, that a wife's friend who is interested in the husband told the wife that, look, tomorrow, the friend of the wife told the husband that tomorrow your wife is going to poison you, and she's going to Mami Market to buy the poison which she's going to use to actually poison your food. what you can do is go close to the Miami market and hide and see. Okay. You will see the fact that your wife will go to the Miami market to get gamalin that she's, intending to use to poison you. The husband was shocked and went close to the Miami market to watch at the time, and truly saw the wife going to where they sell gamalin, poison, and was shocked that, so what the friend said was true, and was looking and actually saw her buying the gamalin. You will say that is a proof of evidence. But in the real sense, it is not. Because at the time the family came and asked and called the wife and said, we caught you. This is the gamalin in your hand. They told us we were going to buy gamalin to poison your husband. And at the same time, you are even cooking. Who is going to eat this food? And the wife said, I didn't intend killing my husband. The rats in the areas are too much. And then it was just because of the rat that I went to buy gamalin. Now, how do you prove that evidence of the fact that the gamalin was meant for the husband?
Very true.
You must prove beyond reasonable doubt. In fact, someone must have eaten what she cooked for us to ascertain the fact that she cooked, she applied the substance to it for somebody to eat. Either her husband, the person honestly will not die, either her husband or somebody else, because murder is not particular to one. It could be the person intended to be killed or somebody else. You must have actually crawled. In fact, murder might not even have resulted in death, might have even resulted in grievous bodily harm. Is enough for an attempted murder, and that is enough as proof of evidence. So in this case, if you are going to have a proof of evidence against your institution, like I said earlier, violent non-fit injuria, you cannot belong to that institution and want to actually claim damages. So if you had belonged, it means that if you are going to have a proof against them, that proof must be even beyond the institution itself.
Beautiful. Awesome. Very, very well said. Well, let's move on to the next daily we have. What do we have?
We're looking at the Punch newspaper and the big story here on subsidy. Federal government may spend 236 billion naira monthly on imported Dangote petrol. And just a rider to that particular story, marketers, others back Dangote on subsidy removal. Meman lift over 50 million liters of Dangote petrol.
And also on the top strip of the same newspaper, banditry, Zamfara governor reports a defense minister to NSA.
And moving on, CBN, banks sell $9 billion as Naira weakens to 1,670 Naira per dollar.
And also APC, that is a dual election. APC dismisses a pool of fraud. The police recovered stolen beavers.
Okay, moving on. New interest rates may worsen bad loans. New interest rates may worsen bad loans. That is coming from the OPS. Details are on page 7.
Interestingly, we have Onga 79. Tinubu seeks a debt forgiveness for Nigeria. Gentlemen, let's look at this very important story at a time when our president Bola Ahmed Tinubu is has this penchant for borrowing, for asking, for receiving from wherever that of course is offered to him. Does it really make sense that at the end of the day, would any institution take him seriously in possibly saying we're going to forgive you, despite the fact that he keeps asking for more? Let me start with you, Cyril.
Forgive who, please?
Forgive the country of its debt. Because that's what it's stated here.
No. So in the international arena, a lot of very strong horse trading and bargaining takes place. Never rule anything out. But Nigeria's leaders have been largely profligate. Because even when you want to do debt forgiveness, sometimes it depends on the creditor. If they say, let's look at your books and see what you've done, if it was a good attempt that ended with a bad outcome, it's even understandable. What are we borrowing money for in this country? We borrow money to buy a yacht. We borrow money to buy, also to acquire liabilities. You don't look like a candidate for forgiveness, frankly speaking. In fact, you look very far from that. But if it will come, it will not come easy. The other time I had forgiveness under Obasanjo was because of some very hard, cold facts about global power play between China and the US.
Yeah, because I actually wanted to ask, what was the magic wand that Tinubu, that Obasanjo used?
Just some weeks, a few years ago, as Brexit happened, Britain needed to open a larger corridor outside of Europe because it's an out of Europe. I would like to see some investments this way in the global south, okay? Even Nigeria too. So every time there's a geoeconomic shift, people look for new friends. The bigger people look for new friends. That was what led Europe and our friends. You know, they came together to say, come, we need to cut Africa better. Although even the grace that they bought with the debt relief now has largely been rolled back. Because of course, debt relief, yes, good it came, but it didn't, our leaders didn't translate it into anything really meaningful. Which arguably has also laid the ground for Russia's own recent imperialism. You look at the Sahel states, okay, and Russia is more or less taking its own hand to directly intervene in certain issues affecting domestic policy in these countries. So, except we are praying tomorrow that something big will happen. You see, the other day, Russia took its planes to fly into Japanese territory. Japan responded with flares. Okay, Russia and China will be organizing drills at Japan's backyard. So sometimes when these things happen, you need. I mean, so those sometimes the big countries need support and partnerships. That was what also led to the opening up of schools like University of Friendship during the Cold Era, during the Cold War. They normally wouldn't need you, but sometimes in order to show up goodwill across the world, this is it's like a wind that comes from time to time. It may come, but for any country to sincerely plan its economic prosperity on the misfortune of others, that will seriously look to me as national waywardness.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Labaso. Thank you. Barrister Dami, as we coast home, because it's a wrap already for us looking at our time, can we just get your reaction for Tinubu seeking debt forgiveness for Nigeria? At this time and at this point, is it right for him? Because he's just 1 year and about 22 years into office and he's seeking for debt forgiveness, looking at the amount he's already borrowed in his 1 year in office.
It is more or less like putting a square peg in a round hole. Because, you know, you seek for a loan here and there, and then the expenditures by which the loan is made for does not, you know, is not in tandem with the economic prosperity of your nation. And then you now seek debt forgiveness for what? For the debt about to be taken, or for the debt, I mean, for the loan you still have intention to take, or for what? Look, if you are talking about even international relations, if you are talking about your foreign policy, you must have something as trade parity. You see, no country will give you anything for free. You see, every country, you know, in the world is actually thinking about, you know, their trade opportunities, economic prosperity, and security. You see, so in Nigeria today, it will be very difficult for foreigners, for, you know, multinational companies, for industries, for non-state actors to want to actually come to Nigeria to do business. A lot of them had actually, you know, they vacated to neighboring countries where they feel there is peace and security, there is tranquility, and there is the ease of doing business. You see, every country that you want to run to, the Bretton Woods Institute, the IMF you want to run to, they are actually, you know, they are going to give you a policy which you must adhere to for you to go cap in hand begging. And look, we said this before. We said, look, most of our corrupt leaders, because there's massive corruption and financial, you know, mismanagement, recklessness in Nigeria, plethora of it. And most of this money, when they take the money, they take it abroad to keep. Now we go cap in hand abroad to borrow the same money, and they put their interest on it. The same money that had been stolen here is kept there, and then we still go cap in hand to borrow that same money. Is it not an aberration? And look, the cycle continues on and on and on. We go a borrowing. So look, it will be very difficult. Any nation, any institute that continues to give Nigeria money as loan are only doing everything possible to ensure the fact that their policies are instituted in Nigeria, to ensure the fact that the generality of Nigerians are impoverished the more. Because look, the dictate of the removal of subsidy is a dictate of the Bretton Woods Institute, which somebody decided against the generality of Nigerians to put in place, which today is causing the hunger and the shout that you have today. it is not a decision that is totally to us. It's a decision that somebody who is affiliated, who is comfortable with the Bretton Woods Institute, with the IMF, will make such pronouncements at the detriment of the generality of Nigerians. If you are going to institute a policy, this policy must be foolproof. You must have taken your time. You must have looked at the policy. In fact, removing oil, the subsidy must have been gradual process. You make a pronouncement in Nigeria today. Those who are not parties to that pronouncement, those who are not directly affected to that pronouncement, institute issues that culminate in the idea that we will continue to suffer ourselves, because that pronouncement has not even been instituted, but the whole of Nigeria that actually instituted it on their own. And then the hardship continues today. So we build the foundation of hardship in Nigeria. Before you can erode that foundation that you have built, it will take a very long time.
Truly a very long time. Someone did say that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is building a fictional imagery of what he thinks Nigeria is. And unfortunately, he did say after the Edo APC, of course, victory, he said that Edo people voted for APC because of the economic progress of what he has done.
Oh, it's economic prosperity, you mean to say?
Very, very so fortunate. But that's just about the time we have for this segment. We'd love to say thank you to Cyril Abaku for being part of the show. Barrister Dami, thank you as always. We truly do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. All right.
Thank you. And when we return, Justice Binta Yanko with us from Nnamdi Kanu's trial. Please stay tuned.